Bring in show music, please.
Hi, I'm CNBC producer Katie Kramer. Today on Squawk Pod.
We got some breaking news to bring you, and this is big.
Starbucks bet on a new CEO. Chipotle's Brian Niccol getting the nod to right the company's falling sales and share price. The board's lead director, Mellody Hobson.
I made an overture through someone to Brian, and he took the call.
An interview you'll get only right here.
And we thought he would be the right leader for this moment.
And Fanatics, the sports apparel and memorabilia company branching into live events. CEO Michael Rubin on Fanatics Fest.
When the dream kind of popped in my brain, it was about how do we do Comic-Con of sports.
Plus, former President Trump and Elon Musk go live on X's Spaces, taxing or not tips, and the expectations for Vice President Harris's economic plan.
It'll be great to finally have one.
Coming soon.
Because there is no plan, there's also no plan to critique.
It's Tuesday, August 13th, 2024. Squawk Pod begins right now.
Stand Andrew by in 3, 2, 1. Cue Andrew.
Good morning and welcome to Squawk Box right here on CNBC. We are live at the NASDAQ market site in Times Square. I'm Andrew Ross Sorkin along with Melissa Lee and Robert Frank in for Joe and Becky today. Thank you both. Wearing the coat, it always looks good on you. I'm thinking I should.
I'm not
I gotta
quite
match
there
you.
yet.
I gotta match you. She's got a coat on too.
I knew Robert Frank was going to be on set. I had to up my game.
Everybody looking good. Former President Donald Trump returning to Twitter yesterday. This just hours before his conversation with Elon Musk. He posted several campaign ads on his personal X account, marking the first time he's used that platform since August of 2023. Trump usually restricts his social media activity to his own Truth Social platform, but his contract with the company allows him to use his personal X and Facebook accounts for political and campaign activity. Now, after Trump posted on X, shares of Trump media slid by 5%, but have since regained some ground. That's just the sort of social media side of the story. Then there's this, the conversation that took place last night on X with Elon Musk. It was nearly derailed by a number of technical glitches in the first couple of minutes, or really the first half hour of the scheduled start time last night. Some users trying to log on, including myself, to the event, reported they could not join the live stream. Musk saying that there was a cyber attack that had happened that froze the platform. CNBC and a number of other media organizations so far unable to verify whether an attack took place, but other parts of X continued working throughout the glitches. The conversation began after about 40 minutes of troubleshooting and lasted then about 2 more hours. Various points, as many as 1.3 million people appeared to be watching the interview, according to the X Spaces tally. And of course, it'll be all on replay, but let's replay some for you now.
This was a coup. This was a coup of a president of the United States. He didn't want to leave, and they said, we can do it the nice way, or we can do it the hard way. All the stuff that you're seeing now, all the horror that you look at Israel, they're all waiting for an attack from Iran. Iran would not be attacking, believe me. You know, when I was there, and I say it with respect, because I think we would have been good with Iran. I don't want to do anything bad to Iran, but they knew not to mess around. I know Putin very well. I got along with him very well. He respected me, and it's just one of those things. And we would talk a lot about Ukraine. It was the apple of his eye. But I said, don't ever do it. Don't ever do it. You do make a great product, I have to say. I have to be honest with you. That doesn't mean everybody should have an electric car, but these are minor details. And I know you're a big fan of the AI. And I have to say that AI, and this is shocking to me, but AI requires twice the energy that the country already produces for everything. So we're going to have to build a lot of energy. I want to close up Department of Education, move education back to the states, where states like Iowa, where states like Idaho, you know, not every state will do great because states that basically aren't doing good.
I think it would be great to just have a government efficiency commission that takes a look at these things and just ensures that the taxpayer money, the taxpayers' hard-earned money, is spent in a good way. And I'd be happy to help out on such a commission.
I'd love it
if it were formed.
Well, you're the greatest cutter.
So that was just a little taste of it. You stayed up late to see some of it, or to hear some of it, I should say.
That part was interesting because one of the most illuminating parts of all this for me was not so much Trump's views, because a lot of those were rehashed of things we already know. It was more Musk really talking at length about the things that are important to him with immigration, with climate change. But this government efficiency part was really interesting because Musk went back to it 3 times, and President Trump is not known for cutting government spending. Government spending grew under his administration, certainly under the Biden administration, and he had to bring him back to that efficiency commission 3 times before Trump said, yeah, sure, I'll do it, and you can be in charge. Musk was like, I don't know if I want to be in charge, but we should be cutting government spending. The one example that Trump used there was he cut the cost of Air Force One from 2.6 to he cut it by.
Well, so that was my question. If Elon Musk were in charge of this efficiency bureau, if you will, would he be focused on the big items like Social Security, or would he be focused? No, but there might be. I mean, when people always say there's 10% of waste in the system, or even more, could you be renegotiating lots of little deals, different transactions across the entire government that could save you actually that money?
When the debt payments are $1 trillion in a fiscal year,
10% a big
cutting
deal.
a little bit on what the Boeing or who
you think it's irrelevant.
It's entitlements. You have to change entitlements. And I was a little surprised and disappointed that for so many people who do care about the spending equation, that Musk didn't even broach that topic, because you have to if you're going to.
But I don't think that's his focus. I think his focus is on regulations, what he thinks are red tape that's preventing companies from either being able to start up or to grow or to build or what have you. I don't think he's been focused on the entitlement issue or the debt in that context. Though he did talk, his sort of explanation for inflation
was government spending.
Was government spending.
Right. And I think government spending includes, the Inflation Reduction Act, what we're spending on chips, all that stuff, but more importantly, entitlements. Right. You have to throw that in there.
We've got some other news to bring you. CNBC learning that Brian Deese, someone familiar to a lot of folks here on Squawk Box, now advising Vice President Kamala Harris as she develops her economic policy plan. Deese served as National Economic Council Director under President Biden. Harris has said that she plans to release her economic plan in the coming days. She's also working with Mike Pyle, a former Deputy National Security Advisor. Deese and Pyle are both alumni, really, if you will, of BlackRock under Larry Fink. So a lot of folks can be focused on what they may be saying behind the scenes, which may also augur a sense that actually maybe the plan really is, if people keep saying, we've talked about it on the broadcast, moving to the center. Where does that really lie? I don't know.
It'll be great to finally have one, have an economic that we can all talk about what you're going to do with taxes, what you're going to do with regulation, some numbers.
What we've also talked about, though, interestingly enough, is because there is no plan, there's also no plan to critique.
Right.
And
it's
so
all the honeymoon period.
We talked about that honeymoon period and
Right.
sort of what happens when that policy comes out, and also what happens if the policy really is more to the center. Then, folks, and I'm not pointing at you, but I'm pointing at, we had Vivek Ramaswamy on the broadcast. We had, House Speaker Kevin McCarthy. There is the also potential, do you get into this situation where then she's accused of being a flip-flopper if she moves from one direction to the other?
Right.
And then are we talking, you remember, and that was very effective against John Kerry.
Right.
If you remember back in the day. So,
And she also, it's delicate because she can't distance herself too much from the Biden economic plans, particularly on taxes. So likely to be fairly similar there.
Over the weekend, Vice President Harris echoing a proposal from former President Trump that would end federal taxes on tipped income. This has become a very interesting and somewhat controversial topic. Robert Frank has been taking a closer look now at the impact to the deficit on such a policy, and maybe some of the unintended things that might happen if all this were to go down. There's been tipping inflation, though, I want to also just put out there.
And everybody asks for tips now, no matter what they do. I mean, like the person at the grocery store, feel free to tip. It's like,
take out food, and they want tips.
Yeah, it's crazy. But Vice President Harris and former President Trump both now proposing to end taxing tips. Harris announcing at a rally in Vegas Saturday that she would, quote, continue our fight for working families by raising the minimum wage and eliminating taxes on tips for service and hospitality workers only. Trump first proposed this plan also in Vegas back in June. Neither candidate, however, has said how they're going to pay for it. The Tax Foundation estimates it would cost at least $100 billion a year in lost revenue over 10 years. Other estimates put it at close to $200 billion. Analysts say companies would have an incentive to structure more pay as tip incomes to reduce taxes. And it could create a two-tier labor market where service workers who rely on tips would make more in after-tax income than those with straight wages. It could also weaken Social Security since income taxes on tips contributes to Social Security and Medicare. Now, the IRS has always had a tough time collecting tip income, yet reported tip income has at the same time increased by 50% between 2012 and 2018 to $38 billion. So it's not chump change. Any change, of course, would have to be approved by Congress.
Do you think, by the way, the tip inflation that's taken place, how much of that is a function of technology? No. The fact that you can tip on your Uber app, the fact that when you go to
somebody a tip?
you can Venmo, but there's what do they call it, the toast machines at the checkout counter where they say 10%, 20, but they don't even say 10% anymore. They say 15, 20, 25, 20, 25, 30. Right?
Here's my problem is it's another arbitrary tax cut for people. Just like you say, okay, we're going to make the cutoff $400,000. So if you make less than that, you're not going to get a tax increase under the Biden plan and probably under the Harris plan. Why $400,000? Why is certain? It's still income. Tip income is still income. So why, just because you receive it that way, if you're a waitress or in the service hospitality business or a server, that a large percentage of your income comes through that label.
Unfair to a teacher, unfair to a doctor, unfair to a nurse, unfair to a lot of folks.
And by the way, we were joking before that hedge fund managers can now structure their carried interest as tip pay. But the Harris campaign specifically saying we're going to make sure in a carve out that we prevent hedge funds, private equity funds from labeling their pay as tips.
I'm in the service industry, right?
We all serve the public in some fashion.
Right. Feel free to tip.
But it's clearly an effort, I hate to say it, to buy votes, right? I mean, that's what this is.
It's Nevada, which is a big swing state. And she saw how popular it was when former President Trump proposed it. The union there initially opposed it, and then their members were like, no, we love this. Right. And so they came out and supported
here's
it.
The other side. The other side of it is, what's the chance that this would actually be approved? Yeah. It would pass. So you could probably go out there and say, I'm going to,
carve out this, carve out that on taxes.
I'm going to send money to every American. You could say that.
Given that Congress has been very good at approving tax cuts and spending, and not, I would say, who's going to oppose it? I mean, both parties want Nevada, so I think they've got a good shot.
Cheese will be next.
Still to come, news that broke on our show, Starbucks switching CEOs in an effort to build back the coffee brand. Starbucks lead director Mellody Hobson joined us on the news.
Sometimes you have to make tough decisions, and those tough decisions are the right thing to do.
And we're back. Next up here on Squawk Pod, breaking news during our TV broadcast about one of America's best-known consumer brands, Starbucks, facing falling sales, maybe a dent in its cool factor, and pressure from not one but two activist investors. The company's CEO of not quite 2 years, Lakshman Narasimhan, had been handpicked by Starbucks legendary founder Howard Schultz. Earlier this year, after a dismal quarter from the coffee giant, Schultz penned an open letter. He posted it on LinkedIn, hinting that the brand he built had maybe lost its way. Well, a new way is certainly beginning. Andrew Ross Sorkin takes things from here.
We got some breaking news to bring you, and this is big. Starbucks' CEO, Lakshman Narasimhan, is now stepping down as CEO and director. That is effective immediately. The company has named Chipotle's CEO, Brian Niccol, as chairman and CEO. That's going to be effective September 9th. In the meantime, the company's CFO, Rachel Jerry, is going to be serving as interim CEO. This is big news in the world of both Starbucks and, of course, in the world of investments, because there have been a number of activist investors around this. Mellody Hobson, the current Starbucks chair, will become lead independent director. And we're going to be able to break all of this down, hopefully, in just a couple of minutes. She's going to join us on the show. But we've been talking about Starbucks for quite some time. Lakshman taking over the company about a year ago. The stock down since he took over. Just in the past year, you're looking at the stock down about 25%. By the way, the news here up now putting the stock up about 8% on the back of this news.
Chipotle is doing.
Chipotle is down.
We should
7%.
also take a look at Chipotle as well, and we're going to have to see who's going to ultimately run that company. But you can see the confidence that people have in Brian.
Keep in mind what has happened to Chipotle stock since Nichol took over
it's
in
incredible.
2018. March 2018, he took over. The stock was split adjusted roughly $5 compared to where it is now.
Wow.
So that is the kind of operator
That's
he has been. They've been able to fight inflation with price increases, innovation to the menu, also a lot of technology improvements, the Autocado, which automatically scoops out the avocado. So a lot of things like that. If he can impart some of that to the Starbucks story, which has had so many different problems, for the first time offering a $5 pairing menu now, because they have to join the fight in terms of, consumers just pushing back on prices at this point. That's what Narasimhan has not been successful at. And so this is really seen as
it's amazing that they got
Starbucks.
him. It's amazing that they got Brian.
It was amazing.
They must be paying him a lot.
I want to read from Howard Schultz, of course, Starbucks' founder, is the chairman emeritus. He was apparently consulted on this hiring. He says, having followed Brian's leadership and transformational journey at Chipotle, I've long admired his leadership impact, his retail excellence and track record in delivering extraordinary value, recognize the critical human element it takes to lead a culture and values-driven enterprise. And I'm underlining those words because if you think about some of the criticism that Howard Schultz has leveled towards actually this management, I believe he is the leader that Starbucks needs at a pivotal moment in its history. He has my respect and full support. He then goes on to thank Mellody and the Starbucks board for their deep commitment to shaping the future. Of course, one of the big questions now is going to be what the activist investors, Elliott and Starboard, which are taking positions, think of this. Are they going to still pursue trying to get seats on that board? What other kind of pressure points are they going to push? Or are they going to say, you know what, these are the operational decisions and moves that have to be made? We've said for a very long time this is a company that would struggle in many ways. There's not a financial engineering program that you can put into place at this company. This is an operational issue. Some people have talked about, do you spin off China? Do you franchise the business? I'm not sure any of those things are now going to be on the table, and maybe this is going to give them some room to try to figure it out.
Chipotle has its own release out about who is going to resume the role here. So far, it looks like an interim CEO, Scott Boatwright, who's the current chief operating officer. But Jack Hartung, who had been the president or CEO of Chipotle prior, he had retired, will stay on indefinitely with the organization as president of strategy. So
that stock down almost 10%. Yeah.
Wow.
It is a
wow.
blow.
So this is a huge move in the world of what you call it, fast food. I wouldn't call it fast food. I'd call it something else.
Brian Nichols probably regarded, and I'm going to go out on a limb here, as one of the best operators
in the business.
In the business, and probably one of the best CEOs out there. And it's interesting that Howard Schultz had to be brought in to give his approval, because he has been sort of the, I don't want to say the third person in the room all the time, but always sort of second guessing, right? I mean, he had that open letter that was published saying that he didn't like the direction in which Starbucks was going, and so he has a say, even if he's away from the company.
And to your point, what the great things that he did at Chipotle, aside from technology and being a great operator, was always doing things that made Chipotle feel special. Mm-hmm. They were doing sort of, in that context, high-end things, special menu offerings that made it not just another commoditized maker of rice bowls and burritos.
Right.
And that's exactly what Starbucks needs.
There's a reason why people are willing to pay $20 for a bowl.
And they still feel like, oh, we're getting Chipotle, that's special.
And so can you do that with a cup of coffee?
And that's the question. We've discussed it. We were discussing just yesterday. Yeah. What do you have to do?
Your point of, should they just make, just to get people in the store, 99-cent coffee, and Brian would probably go the other direction.
No,
probably try to move up market and make it more special.
I think the question is, how do you make it special?
Right.
And the cost right now, unfortunately,
are too high
for Starbucks is too high. And so
for this macro
what
environment,
is the kind of product that you can bring in, and also what is the experience? Going back to that third place idea,
it's all about the experience.
And the human interaction. And we've all lost it because we're buying everything on our phone. And they've had a lot of trouble, by the way, just even fulfilling the orders. And look, the good news is there's long lines. The bad news is there's long lines.
Right.
And so how do you fix that? How do you fix the experience in the stores? How do you
Right.
clean up some of the stores? I mean, I think there's a lot of work to be done, but he has a lot of respect in the business, and we're going to continue to talk about this story in just a moment. Mellody Hobson, the current Starbucks chair, will become lead independent director, and she joins us right now, and we welcome her to the broadcast. And thank you for joining us, especially as this news is just crossing the tape. Mellody, tell us how this happened. There's obviously been a lot of challenges at Starbucks over the past year.
It's my pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me. And it happened because our board a couple of months ago started to engage in a conversation about the leadership of the company. And I made an overture through someone to Brian, and he took the call. And we thought we had the opportunity to engage with one of the biggest names in the industry, someone whose track record is just clearly proven, not only through the spectacular results that he's had at Chipotle, but also before that at Pizza Hut and Taco Bell. He knows this industry, and we thought he would be the right leader for this moment.
Obviously, there's been a number of activists involved, and we can get to them in just a moment. But speak to what you see and what you think the board sees as the challenges that the company is facing today, and also how you think Brian is going to address them strategically, how he would be different, for example, than the approach that Lakshman has taken.
First of all, I want to make sure that I'm very clear about the fact that Lakshman is a brilliant mind. I have very much enjoyed working with him. He's a good guy. He brings great humor to everything that he does. He faced some headwinds and some challenges as he was coming into an industry cold, and we have to acknowledge that. And at the same time, he actually pushed us forward on a bunch of things. We saw our partner engagement scores go up, turnover go down, and he started to address store operations and our supply chain. So there was movement there. But what we saw with Brian was someone who's quite honestly been there, done that, through all sorts of market environments, all sorts of cycles. And when I talked to him, I remember him saying, I know what to do. And he said, this is a speed bump in this company's history. This is not something that I fear going into. And that was something that for our board was extremely encouraging, because that's how we see it. We think this is a fundamentally sound company. The iconic Starbucks brand will continue to be great. And we're happy to have Brian there to help us restore that greatness.
So when he says, I know what to do, what is that? What are the kind of changes you think we're going to see?
You will hear from him when he comes in. I'm not going to get in front of him. And clearly he gets the opportunity to assess and talk to you directly. So he's not in the seat yet. Let's let him get there and then let him come out with his plans.
I mentioned that there were activists, Elliot, of course, involved in this company, Starboard, more recently. Have you consulted or discussed the possibility of bringing Brian on board with them?
We have not. So we look forward to engaging with all of our shareholders about this new development.
You mentioned that you engaged a couple months ago in this process, Mellody, and so I'm wondering if the Q2 results were a tipping point for the board.
There was a lot going on. We were looking at the business in lots of ways, so I don't want to make it about one thing. There wasn't a moment where we said, okay, this is what we're going to do. This is a smart group of people in that boardroom, and we were assessing a lot of issues at the same time and ultimately decided to make a decision to pivot in terms of leadership.
And Mellody, when you look at the Brian Niccol playbook, whether it was Taco Bell, whether it was Chipotle, it's always been fixing the culinary and fixing the technology. What did you see about his specific talents or strategic focus in the past that made you reach out to him as opposed to a lot of other great operators in the coffee space, in the fast dining space?
There was a lot. So first of all, he's a retailer through and through. He's an operator. He understands operations and how they should work and how to be efficient. He is an innovator. He's used innovation to really move that company forward. He is a culture carrier. That is something that is very big at Starbucks. Our culture means a lot. He understands how much the people affect the outcomes, and he has taken care of his people. He's a beloved leader. So those were the things when we looked at all of those pieces together, we said, this is the right person for this company. And especially when you think about the culture of Starbucks, the mission and values, what has made us great, I think that he just speaks to all of those sensibilities.
Hey, Mellody, there's been questions about the China business, strategic questions about whether an activist would push to franchise the business. With Brian in place, some of these kind of big strategic moves, are they taken off the table?
No, everything's on he will have the wheel. So let me make that extraordinarily clear, that he will be the one who will drive the strategy and the board will govern. And I would imagine that he will look at everything, as he should.
And in your sense of the relationship with labor, that's obviously been another big source of controversy, challenges and the like. How does that change?
I think that we have made a lot of progress. We've had very constructive conversations, and I think he'll be pleased with that progress. So hopefully we'll stay on that course.
We also made note that Howard Schultz, of course, the longtime leader of this company, has made a number of critical comments quite publicly about Lakshman, maybe not by name, but indirectly. He's out this morning in that statement of yours from Starbucks, very supportive of Brian. How does that relationship change?
So what I want to make a point about founders, because I think it's very important. Founders have this unmatched intuition, and they have deep, deep, deep expertise that is not to be dismissed. I know a lot about this because I'm married to a founder, George Lucas. I work alongside of a founder, John Rogers at Ariel, and I've been in a boardroom with the most iconic founders of our generation. Howard Schultz in particular, Jeffrey Katzenberg, David Geffen, founding members of the Lauder family. When you think about those individuals, they care deeply about the company they created. I call them the Obi-Wan Kenobis of their companies. And as a board, we appreciate that feedback and we consider it. I think that's something that's very, very important. So when you think about Howard on a going basis, he has no formal role in the company. He's our chairman emeritus. He does not have a board seat. He's our founder who is always going to be revered and respected for what he built. And his relationship with the leader of the company will be one that he will build with that person. But I know how excited he is. When I called him and told him what we were doing and what I had been working on and what the board had been pursuing, he said, Mellody, that's a home run.
Mellody, I'm just curious, when you called Howard and you let him know what's going on, was this before or after you extended the offer to Brian Niccol? Before the contract was signed, afterwards? What's the timing of it? Did he have to approve it?
He met with Brian last week to sit down and talk about the company. So that'll give you that sense.
Mellody, one of the big questions, and we're talking about PPI and frankly, just inflation across the board and just how challenged the consumer is. You know, one of the critiques is that the price of the products at Starbucks is just too high, and that there has to be some kind of rethink about what that product mix looks like, what the cost looks like, what kind of value plays can be brought to bear. How are you thinking about that right now?
We have a lot of conversations about all of this in our boardroom, everything you could possibly imagine, the obvious and not so obvious. But we look forward to having Brian come in and assess where we are and provide his leadership on these issues. So stay tuned.
And then I was going to ask, we mentioned technology, which is something that Brian's, how prepared is the company and the board to making big capital investments in technology at this point?
I just want to make it clear that, you want specifics. I can't be that specific, right? Because we have a new leader that's going to come in and they're going to look at and assess all of this. And we will do the right thing for the long-term viability and success of the business. Whatever we have to do, we will do. And hopefully we've demonstrated that in the past and will continue to do so in the future. We have great, great, great hopes for our business under Brian's leadership. And we know the Starbucks brand will continue to shine into the future.
Mellody, I know you got to run. Final question. What has the lesson of this past year been for you and the board?
Wow. Well, there's been a lot. This board and this company has had challenges. We've been hit with a lot. I think the major lesson for me, as I think about it, I don't want to speak for the whole board, but for me, is, sometimes you have to make tough decisions. And those tough decisions are the right thing to do. And despite the news and the way the media wants to portray it, it isn't necessarily because of outside forces. It's a room full of people who are accountable. We own the outcomes. I want to be extremely clear about that. We're not passing any buck. And we understand we have a job to do and we are doing it. And we're doing that and we're trying to drown out the noise. And that has been the major lesson for me. Do what's right. And just, you can't be a weather vane with all the people around you who have an opinion. They don't know everything that you know sitting in that boardroom.
Mellody Hobson, we very much appreciate you joining us, especially as this news is crossing and helping us understand all of it. And we look forward to talking to you soon. And we hope we have an opportunity to look forward to talking to Brian very soon, too, about how he sees the company and its direction going forward. So thank you again.
Thanks for having me.
Next on Squawk Pod, from Tom Brady to Peyton Manning, Fanatics Fest is bringing the sports world right to New York City this weekend. Fanatics CEO Michael Rubin joins us.
No one's ever done this in sports, and I think we're the perfect company to bring together hundreds of the best athletes in the world, get all the leagues and teams together, and you do something incredible for sports fans.
This is Squawk Pod.
Up and Andrew, Q.
Watching Squawk Box on CNBC, I'm Andrew Sorkin, along with Melissa Lee and Robert Frank, in for Becky and Joe. New York City is about to be the center of the sports world this weekend as the Fanatics Fest kicks off this Friday, giving fans access to some of the biggest names in sports, including Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, and the list goes on and on and on. Joining us right now is the ringleader disrupting the world of sports and collectibles. Michael Rubin is here, Fanatics CEO. It's nice to see you.
Good to be here.
So this is going to be huge.
I'm excited. You know, there has never been a sports festival ever in the world. And if you think about so many other industries, we have it, right? You have Comic-Con in New York City, gets 250,000 people dressed in, their favorite costumes, walking down and taking over New York City. And you have all the music festivals and South by Southwest. No one's ever done this in sports. And I think we're the perfect company to bring together hundreds of the best athletes in the world, get all the leagues and teams together, and you do something incredible for sports fans. So it's this weekend.
So tell us what's going to happen. I used to go to card trade shows, right? To baseball card trade shows back in the day, even at Javits in the old days, but nothing like this.
And the funny thing is that's really where the idea came from, because there's this incredible card show called The National. It just happened a few weeks ago in Cleveland, where 150,000 collectors come to it. And I always have two reactions when I go there. The first is, this is unbelievable. There's 150,000 collectors that are coming to this show. The second thing is, it doesn't look that different from when you and I were kids.
Right.
Okay? And that's when I went to Comic-Con.
Yeah, people buy tables.
Right. It's just, it's an incredible show, but it hasn't changed much. It hasn't evolved. And so then I went to Comic-Con. I'm like, this is spectacular. Why do we not have this for sports? I literally said, find out who runs Comic-Con, and met that guy, Lance Festerman, and said, hey, great news. You're going to come to Fanatics. You're going to start Fanatics Fest. And so that was really the origin of it. But we've got this weekend the best athletes in the world, more than 200 athletes. We've got, you mentioned Tom Brady coming, Kevin Durant and Anthony Edwards with their gold medals coming off, straight from Europe. You've got, the top baseball players, Derek Jeter, David Ortiz. You've got, a bunch of the New York Knicks, Jalen Brunson, Josh Hart. I mean, I happen to not be a Knicks fan. I'm a Sixers guy, but we got some of the Knicks coming.
Got Mike Tyson coming.
Mike Tyson and Jake Paul doing a press conference, which Peyton Manning is going to help officiate, which is going to be incredible. So many WWE stars coming, Cody Rhodes, Rey Mysterio, Hulk Hogan, the top UFC stars.
And you get to, some kids get to play.
Yeah, I was just looking at the schedule.
People?
Here's what's crazy. I now have players reaching out to me directly and say, hey, I want to do basketball with the kids. I want to do football with the kids. We're now in the place where I think anybody else would be working hard with athletes and celebrities and artists to get them to want to do things. And I was talking to Travis Scott last night. It's like, hey, I want to do basketball with the kids. I want to do football with the kids. And people want to interact with their fans. So we're going to, by the way, Jay-Z's popping up 40-40 in the middle of Fanatics Fest. Travis Scott's coming and launching his exclusive Topps Cactus Jack cards that are going to be insane. So we have so many stunts that people don't know about. This is going to be, my goal is that we take over social media this weekend and that we're the most relevant thing in social media. I think we will be because we have so many incredible stunts.
What's the most expensive VIP experience ticket that you're charging for this?
That's a great question. I actually don't know. I don't think it's that expensive. Probably $1,000 to $1,500 would be the most expensive ticket. That's probably a lot of the CNBC audience. I think we only made 1,250 available of those tickets. But the general admission's $50. And I think as a sports fan, you could come from start 9:30 on Friday until close 7, and there's great content every hour on the hour.
That's what I was going to ask. How much of it is content that you can either watch, meaning like panels and conversations? How much of it is activities you can actually play? How much is seeing new cool trading cards or sneakers or whatever's going on?
So trading cards will be about a quarter of the show. We want to make sure it was important and relevant, but that this show was really a sports festival. I'd say panels are going to be, there's two setups there's one main stage that holds a couple thousand people, and you'll have Stephen A. Smith interviewing Tom Brady there, and David Ortiz interviewing Derek Jeter there, and you'll have a New York Knicks panel there with Brunson and Josh Hart and Ben Stiller and Spike Lee, which will be insane. You'll have the same Rangers version of that and a WWE version of that. So you have panels every hour and hour. Then there's a center stage where they're doing podcasts that also have a whole nother set of content. So I'd say, as a sports fan, I could go for the entire weekend and just watch great content. But then there's going to be so many stunts with the athletes interacting. I mean, I think for basketball, there's probably 15 or 20 individual NBA players. Top streamers, by the way, Drewski, Aiden Ross, Sketch, Destroying. Some other streamers we're going to announce in the next couple of days. So I think most of the biggest streamers in the world will be there streaming live from this.
So according to the notes I have, the premium packages go all the way up to $89.90.
Okay,
what do you get for $9,000?
I actually don't know that answer, but what I can tell you, it's probably access to everything.
Wow.
Most people would buy in the general admission ticket, which is $50. Mm-hmm. I think they have very limited amounts of these higher end packages to get you access to get pictures with all the athletes, get autographs from a lot of the athletes. But for us, what we really want to do is make something for every sports festival. So we're going to have tens of thousands of sports fans that are just going to immerse themselves in this sports festival again, where you can watch great content. And each league is going to be there. Right. So the NFL will be there with all the Super Bowl rings and the Lombardi trophies. WWE, I've had 3 or 4 big athletes call me and say, hey, I want to come out like a WWE superstar. The way you come out in the full WWE outfit. Hey, can I surprise somebody and be somebody different? And so there's going to be, again, stunts every hour in the hour all weekend long.
Is the goal long-term? Would you do this in other cities over time? Would you take this on the road to turn into a traveling circus? What's the goal?
Yeah, so I think when the dream kind of popped in my brain, it was about how do we do Comic-Con of sports? So how do we have Fanatics Fest in every big city in the world? Now, the U.S. may only be able to do this in 2 or 3 cities. Maybe New York City, best city in the world, where we're starting in Javits this weekend.
Right.
L.A., maybe Chicago, but why don't we do this in Paris? Why don't we do this in Brazil? Why don't we do this in China? Why don't we do this in Tokyo? And this is really all about just creating an event for the best super fans in the world. And I'll give you one example. When I was at the National Card Show a few weeks ago, I saw these 2 fans in full head-to-toe Oakland A's baseball uniforms. And it struck me right there, well, everyone comes in a costume to Comic-Con. Why don't we do the same thing for Fanatics Fest? So I went out and literally said, anyone who comes in a full sports uniform or dressed as a crazy super fan, every hour on the hour, we're going to pick the best dressed fan to go meet one of their favorite athletes one-on-one. Wow. So someone comes in a full Brady uniform,
with the
helmet, shoulder pads, jersey, pants. That best dressed Brady fan, we're going to take him to go meet Tom Brady for 5 minutes. Okay, same thing with Peyton Manning or Eli Manning or Jalen Brunson. So we're going to we want this to be just a crazy sports festival. But I want people there open to close all 3 days, just getting everything they ever dreamed of and just making dreams come true, especially for kids. Like, for me as a kid, I would have just wanted to move into this, do all the things with the trading cards, all these launched products, but all this great content I can watch, and then getting a chance to play basketball with my favorite basketball players and my favorite streamers and do the same thing in football and hockey.
Right. Very cool. Very, very cool. Congratulations. We wish you lots of luck.
You can't congratulate me till after it's done.
Till after it's done.
Yeah.
Starts on Friday. Go get your tickets, either $50 or $8,000.
$89.90.
$89.90.
$89.90 for you, $50 for everybody else. Okay. Are you coming?
I am going to come. I'm coming on Friday morning.
I can't wait. Bringing the kids?
In full dress.
I got to work.
Who would you dress as? Who would you dress as? Who was your idol that Andrew Ross Sorkin would dress as?
I mean, I'd go back in history. I would.
You go back, but then you can't meet that athlete.
No, I know. I don't think
we got a lot of people back in history as well.
Okay.
So who would you dress as?
So I would dress as Michael Jordan, and I would get the knee brace. I'd put the knee brace on, and it flip the black to red over. You know what I mean?
Okay,
that would be my move.
So Friday morning, I expect you as Michael Jordan, shoes,
the whole thing,
knee brace, and if you are, you got to tell me who your favorite athlete is you ever met who's going to be there. We're going to set up some good. I know you know a lot of people, you've got a lot of access, but we got to do something special. Okay. So I expect you as Michael Jordan.
Oh my God.
Exclusive here at CNBC. Right. Who are you going to be?
I don't know. We got to go.
Michael Rubin.
And that's the pod for today. Thanks for listening. Squawk Box is hosted by Joe Kernan, Becky Quick, and Andrew Ross Sorkin. Our thanks to today's pinch hitters, Melissa Lee and Robert Frank. Tune in weekday mornings on CNBC at 6 Eastern to get the smartest takes and analysis from our TV show right into your ears. Follow Squawk Pod wherever you get your podcasts. That's it. We'll meet you right back here tomorrow.
We are clear. Thanks, guys.